Yeah, so I'm here with some of the cast and crew of Kangaroo Island, an amazing Aussie film that came out, what was it, 2.5 years ago, Eric, we were talking about?
No, we shot it two and
We
a half
shot
years
it two
ago,
and a half
wasn't it?
years ago.
Was it two
Okay.
and a half years ago?
2023,
Oh,
November, December 2023, 2.5.
Time
just
flies.
saying that's strange, isn't it?
It
It's very
is.
strange. Time is flying and it's just like going right past our eyes. It's crazy.
Yes.
So this is a question for all of you guys. What was tougher, the emotional scenes or surviving the Aussie wildlife while filming? That's what people want to know. I
I
hear
think
all
that's what
kinds of questions about the animals out there and how scared people get, and I'm like, let's just hear it straight from the source.
Eric, you had the emotions, but you didn't have to deal
Oh,
with the
the
snake.
emotions. Well, I love Kangaroo Island, and I don't think I mean, there are things there that can kill you, obviously, but I just, there's so much beautiful wildlife in its natural habitat, walking to work every day and seeing echidnas and, kangaroos and the whole scenario. It's beautiful. So I don't see the place as a threat at all. I think Kangaroo Island's actually there is a wildness to it, but it's got a lot of kind of emotional support naturally built into it. And and the emotional scenes, I think, they we had such a lovely bond, the cast on that show, and so because you go to vulnerable places, as long as you do that in an environment with the support. So yeah, there was just support all around the place from nature and from everyone else, so we're in a good spot.
And how about you, Tim and Sally? What's your take on that?
Well, for us, it was pretty emotional too, because when you're directing your first movie and the writer is on set and the writer happens to be your wife, when things aren't going right according to her, but they're going right according to me, that can be both dangerous and emotional.
Hmm.
things were going well. We took precautions. We actually decided to stay in different houses on the island during the shoot, just so I didn't drive him crazy, because I can.
It actually worked really well. I mean, to Eric's point, the cast felt like a family pretty early on. And I think between us all, for whatever reason, we just clicked. Everyone did the research before. Everyone loved the script, even though it was a very fast shoot. We shot 100 scenes in 23 days.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone was just the one thing I knew I didn't have to worry about was performance, and I knew that in the rehearsals. I went, thank God, I'm going to be able to move so fast because the only thing we have to worry about is camera and sound, and the performances they really flowed beautifully.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And so, Sally, you're the genius behind the writing of this movie, this masterpiece. Where did you get your ideas from, and where did it all stem from? Your inspiration to write this type of film?
It's a zoo without fences, Kangaroo Island, and it just got me thinking about other animals, and then what type of animal is the human animal, and it seems like we're meaning seeking. Do other animals seek meaning, or are they just sort of a culmination of instincts? And then I start from there, how do we create meaning after something really terrible has happened? Because we all know there's great parts of life, but there's really crappy parts of life. And I thought about two sisters who've experienced something horrific, and how did they deal with that? And they dealt with it in really different ways. And from there grew the story.
Okay, nice. So, what was your idea for people to take when they see this, like to relate to it in some way and to basically make
Yeah.
it their own story? That's usually what people do when they do that type of writing, it's for people to make it their own and relate to it in some way.
I think in my dream world, it would just be a way to communicate with other humans out there that are, I guess, a bit like me, who wonder if life has any meaning, even if they have a religion that they're a part of, or a faith, to let them know that other people out there question, and it's okay to question. And the film's really funny, and that's really important, because one of the ways we deal with difficult things is through humor and through our relationships with other people. And so it's quite uplifting. So I just wanted to reach out to my fellow humans. If that sounds cheesy, I'm sorry, but yeah.
Yeah, we had to make sure we skipped, melodrama, didn't we, Eric? and I think all the actors managed to do that. I think in the wrong hands, a script like this, which is quite emotional, can go south. And I think the way it was played, and by you in particular, Eric, you know, you had the hardest news to give, and you know, you were still like having the odd joke and a smile, and you were protecting your daughters all the way, as though they were your daughters, you know, as an actor. And I thought that was really profound. I'm not sure if that was very deliberate, or if it was in the writing, or whether it was something you gave
Well,
much thought
I
to.
think it was just a combination of everything, and knowing that, you know, knowing your frame was right in here, you didn't really have to push anything. And sometimes, you know, sometimes as an actor, you feel like you're at odds with, you know, with the setups, and sitting around a table is something that we've all done all of our lives. So we kind of know that, you know, that it's the relationships that are happening in between the words. And as long as you're sitting true to your own story, it kind of everything just, yeah, can come out. And knowing that you don't actually have to work too hard to communicate that is, you know, credit to the choices that the director of photography made, I think.
Credit to you too, because you do stage and camera. So to make that
Yeah.
adjustment when you have to be so big, right? When you're on stage, well, bigger, and then, like you said, you need a frame. That's
Yeah,
not
I'm working
easy.
in the theater at the moment at the ensemble. Just quickly, there's 220 seater, but the closest audience member is about 5 or 6 feet away. And
Oh,
it's in the round kind of thing. And man, yeah, so you can work big and small in this theater. So that's just an
yeah.
aside. Yeah, but
What's it
yeah,
called?
good point.
What's it
The play,
called?
the play's called 84 Charing Cross Road. It was a
That's
film
right.
with Anthony Hopkins back in the day, but yeah, it's yeah, but you know, like being assisted by you know, camera choices and stuff is you know, it's always good to understand that as an actor.
Mm.
I have
Do you
another
feel the
question.
front row?
Do you feel what?
Sorry, Amber. Do
No,
you
no,
feel
no.
the front row like you feel the camera? Like, is it a different feeling,
Yeah.
or is it a similar feeling
What, feeling the camera's presence?
compared to feeling the presence of an audience, you know, 10 feet
Well,
away?
I reckon it's the energy is exactly the same. I think
Is it?
the
Okay.
knowledge that there's somebody watching.
Yes.
And the good thing when you pull the camera way back and put a long lens on, there
Mm.
isn't that kind of, but in the back of your mind as an actor, you're always aware that someone's watching.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it seems like an obvious thing to say, but that's the
Oh, well,
craft. That's the
yeah.
ingredient that just makes, yeah, that just makes it what it is. Yeah.
I was going to ask you for, because I know there's people that always ask me this question being over here. It's kind of a silly question, but it's funny. If there was a snack, an Aussie snack that you guys could have either in your character in the movie or for the rest of your lives, what would it be? I personally know what mine are. Mine would be meat pies, sausage rolls, Vegemite, which I have in my cabinet. I can't live without it. And obviously Tim Tams and Freddo Frogs. I think I've pretty much said my favorite things there.
I mean, I'm obsessed with Haig's chocolates, which is South Australian, and chicken chips. Love chicken chips.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard that in a long time. It's kind of like with the chicken salt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just the flavor. We don't have that in the US, chicken chips.
No, I really missed chicken chips and gravy when I was living in New York, and I really missed a good lamb gyros, and I missed a great Thai laksa.
And the coffee obviously is the best, one of the best in the world,
Hmm.
Yes.
for
Coffee is
sure.
Eric.
great. Oh, I had one in my head just a second ago and it's gone. That happens more often than I'd like to admit these days. Oh, look, I don't know.
I'm trying to
What's
think of
your
what you.
go-to?
I don't
What's
know.
your go-to Aussie
I'll
snack?
think about it and we'll carry on. And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
I'll blurt out. Oh no, what I was going to say was a roast chicken in a you know in a handbag. What do they call them? The bachelor suit briefcase or something.
Oh,
Um, and you know, just from the local supermarket, the free range ones. I think you've always
Mm.
got to have one of those in your fridge nearby. They're as good as they are, you know, cold as they are hot.
But
so
I feel
good.
like when you're in that supermarket and you've got your frozen vegetables and stuff in, okay, it's just very hard for me to put the hot chicken handbag with
Uh,
there. feel like there's going to be some contamination,
Yeah.
something weird can go
There
on.
is a
But
craft to it. Yeah.
There's a way
so,
to carry it, and there's a way to dispose of it and take it out of the store with you. And yeah, it's all those things that you learn being in Oz, obviously. What about the most only in Australia moment that happened during filming? Like, oh, this is so typical Australian. Like you said, there was lots of kangaroos around, obviously, but what was a moment that was like, oh, this would only happen here?
you
I
take
mean,
it.
the first thing that came to mind, and then I'll let Eric think of his, or Tim. We were filming on the jetty on Kangaroo Island at Vivon Bay. And I think I said to Tim, well, wouldn't it be funny if a shark went past? Lo and behold,
A great
a
white.
great white shark swims right past in the shallow waters as Beck is about to jump off
The
and do
jetty.
a scene in the water.
Oh my
So we
goodness.
luckily had this local girl who surfed, and it was Beck's body double. And Beck was going to do it, but this girl was there just in case. And she's like, it's okay. It's no big deal. It's just a juvenile. So she just jumped right in. That was
What a
pretty
big
awesome.
deal.
That's really Australian. Yeah, the 14-year-old stunt
That's not
double.
a knife. This is a knife.
Yes, exactly.
Just a juvenile.
That's
That's
not
it.
a thing.
What
Yeah.
about your
There was
emotion?
there was so many things there. I mean, I think what you're saying about, that couldn't happen anywhere else. Well, obviously kangaroos. I mean, it's the only place on earth that has kangaroos, and you're on Kangaroo Island, so
They're
that's
in the
pretty. But we had everything. We discovered that the bay that we were in, I think it seemed like a kind of nursery for young dolphins. And at
Oh,
certain times of the day, there'd be an adult or two, and then two or three juvenile dolphins. And at the same time, and I don't know whether that's because the mum and dad had gone off for romantic lunch out at sea, something. But it turned up. We had everything. We had all kinds of things. We did the white belly sea eagles didn't necessarily show up, but we found something else, and fishing one day, and it was amazing. Just little
Yeah,
things like
we were trying to get the white-bellied eagles, which are there. I think we caught them a couple of times, but then this eagle that looks like it came down as we were filming and grabbed a fish, and then pulled the fish out of the water, and then took it over to the cliff. And the camera was able to follow it the whole time. And then it was just a magical moment. And I remember thinking, I think you were on the beach at the same time. Then we ran down and got Eric and sort of fudged him watching, and then filmed him as though he was watching the bird, and then looking at it, going into looking at the fish last moments of that fish's life, getting carried away, by the wings of an angel. It was so profoundly wonderful to
amazing.
catch.
I was on the beach, but I wasn't working. I was just walking along, and I watched this
mm,
eagle get a fish, and I went, "Oh bloody hell! I really hope they got that." And the camera
Yeah,
B had a long lens on and picked it all up. It was
yeah,
amazing to see, that nature actually. That's what I'm saying about the island. I think it provided us with what we needed, and the
yes, sure.
inspiration of it more, yeah, and the inspiration of being in that place. And to Tim's credit, to insist that we shot on Kangaroo Island as opposed to, pretending we were on the island up near
Mm.
the Adelaide, just to make it a bit more economical and less risky to shoot, because you're on an island, and if things go wrong with gear or whatever, you're a little bit a little bit
a
out
little
in
bit
the
banded. Hmm.
yeah.
We had two cameras, and Sally also wanted in for her script. It was really important to us that it was an authentic film.
Yeah.
So even though, a couple of the local producers that I was working with said, "There's no way we should be shooting this on Kangaroo Island. It's too hard." By stripping back and being really minimal with our equipment, and having an extra camera in case it breaks, and just being able to go to the actual locations that were in the script. So if Sally wrote there at the Ozone Hotel in Kangaroo Island, that's where we shot. And I was calling him a year beforehand saying, "Do you mind if we shoot here?" And I think I don't know if it subconsciously helps performance, but it certainly helps the aura of
Oh,
the film,
absolutely.
the believability of everything that's going on. It just feels so authentic when you do it properly.
Mm.
Absolutely. And there's nothing like the amazing, beautiful Australian scenery that I try to explain to people that have never been there, but there's nothing like it. It's absolutely so stunning. And I miss that a lot, definitely I mean, California's got some beautiful places, but just the naturalness of Australia, and it looks like a canvas painting. Our sunsets are incomparable, and the beaches, the sand, everything is spectacular. And I still haven't seen all of Australia. You know, there's a lot of parts that I would still love to see as well. I guess with the this is another funny question, but there's a lot of things that come to my head. If there was I guess an Aussie song that would fit perfectly for Kangaroo Island on its own soundtrack album, what would it be? Like one of your favorite Aussie songs that you would carry through as the soundtrack?
I love this question. I got an immediate answer because when I was doing the treatment for the film, or even going through Sally's script, I would write the songs that the Australian songs that I would want to be in the film, and it basically evolved around Hoodoo Guru's album called Stone Age Romeos in
Mhm.
1984 or something like that. And there was also a random song called Paradise Lost by Icehouse that's from their Flowers album. It's a B-side to a famous track of theirs, We Can Get Together, back in 1972 or something. And I tried to get the rights to those songs. And I thought I'd start with the Paradise Lost B-side. And I had one of my producers reached out because he just did an Angels documentary. And the price that came back for a B-side 1972 track from Australia that no one had ever heard of, it made me give up on the Hoodoo Gurus. It made me actually give up on all Australian music, unfortunately. And I just went to Europe and the States, where everyone, instead of trying to gouge us for tens of thousands of dollars, literally said, you can either have it for free because we love your script, or you can have it for $1,000 or $2,000.
That's such a shame because there's so many amazing artists and amazing music that could have been included, but
Oh,
it's always about the numbers and it's so disappointing, you know?
never about the art. No one wanted to engage although I did hear that Ivor Davis he did hear that someone wanted that track and it piqued his interest. But at that point, I actually couldn't make that song fit so I could have come back to that song, but I couldn't. Paradise Lost. It's the most amazing track. If you haven't heard of it, look up Paradise Lost by Icehouse. It
I
is.
think I probably have because I was a big Ice House fan. Of course, I know their
Oh,
main
really?
hits, but yeah, and Hoodoo Gurus, that's so funny. I was just thinking about them the other day, and because I often go back to like listening to Aussie music over here all the time. I mean, it's in my blood. I grew up with it, but I thought of the Hoodoo Gurus the other day, and that's so crazy you just brought that up. Interesting.
So there's a song that the girls sing as they're in one of the flashbacks. They're in the car together and they're singing a Hoodoo Gurus track. That's What I Like.
Oh
It's the
yeah.
opening song on Stone Age Romeos, and we had them singing it. And I thought, all right, well, if I can't get the rights to that music because it's going to be expensive, I'll put a really nice slow piano piece, do the complete juxtaposition, and it worked really nice in the movie both ways. But yeah, what the movie was written for a Hoodoo Guru soundtrack, interestingly. But I've
Nice.
hogged that question. I'd love to hear Eric and
Yeah,
Sally's
what's
No,
your
that
favorite?
favorite
was,
Australian song.
we'll do
Eric, what's yours?
Well, the first thing that popped in my head was tie me kangaroo down, Jack. That would just be a novelty track. And then, like there's obvious things like, that trying to get a music which has got that kind of atmosphere and that real Australian kind of feel, like Xavier Rudd or something like that, that kind of I don't know, outback blues, I suppose you call it, or
Mhm.
folk or whatever. I don't know. And then I thought, I mean, Crowded House, they're Kiwis,
Mm.
but Australians, but albums from like Together Alone, Private Universe, or something like that, which is kind of a very moody. You know the song. It's those kind of things just that summon up the same kind of feeling of space
Mhm.
and kind of effortless melody. I don't know that capture the atmosphere really well. So something like
Amazing
that. But
band.
Tommy Kangaroo
For sure.
for the end credits.
Oh, yeah. What do you think international audiences will find most surprising about Australian life in this film?
It's funny because I wrote it in New York City, and I definitely am a foreigner with an appreciation for Australia. I'm married in Australia, and I have tons of Australian friends, and I sort of wrote it as a love letter to. I mean, obviously, this is a small piece of Australia. You can't encapsulate everything and all the diversity here in one film, but my experiences on Kangaroo Island. I just, most Americans don't even have a passport. which is kind of crazy if you think about it, because Australians travel so much. It's so, it's such a big part of the Australian identity to go out and see the world. But for people that can't come here because maybe it's too expensive or they don't have a passport or it's not on the cards, I wanted them to see like a little snippet of why I love it here so much. The beauty. I love the way Australians typically give people a fair go. So the kindness, the honesty, the love of family and friends. And I hope I brought some of that to the piece.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Eric?
And you've got South Australia. I learned this when during COVID, but South Australia is twice the size of California, but it's got a population of 1.7 million. So,
Wow.
Wow.
so the thing about South Australia and a lot of Australia is that there's so much space. And I lived in South Australia for 20 odd years, and you can always go and find a place to sit by yourself and not see anyone else. You
Yes.
can drive over to the west coast to Eyre Peninsula, or go to Kangaroo Island, or anywhere in South Australia, and you can get these massive beaches,
Mm.
kilometers long, absolutely to yourself,
Mm.
except for the wildlife, what you see in the water, what you see on the cliffs and the land. And that's usually, particularly in South Australia, but you just have to step outside your door to feel like that, or
Hmm.
go for a quick drive or walk down the road. So that's something that I think you can probably get that in America, but obviously there's places that are a little bit more isolated. But I think because of the just sheer numbers that are up there, so there's a sense of living in Australia, a lot of sky, a lot of
Mm.
space, and I think that really, really informs how we see the world and how we live. That makes it unique for us, yeah, down here.
And why we love it so much.
Mm.
I love it.
Definitely. Who in
Yeah.
the cast was most likely to survive in the outback with zero phone reception? I love that question too.
Mm.
I'd have to be Joel.
Yeah. It's got to be Joe. Wait,
I deal with
wait.
it because I'm a Gen Xer, so I understand life before telephones. But
Maybe.
Joel grew up in the outback, so if I needed someone on my team to survive, it'd be Joel. He'd make a big show out of it, but he would certainly save our lives.
It's
Uh-huh.
a shame he's so out of shape too. He's just so unfit.
He's unfit. Yeah, he wouldn't. Yeah, he doesn't have
But wait,
much body fat, so
is,
nothing to draw from.
is the question though, who would survive without their phone?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
with their phone or without, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. However
wait,
you
in other
want.
words, who relies on their phone too much, or
Yeah,
just
I
who's the
get. Well, actually, it's more about who would survive without having their phone in the outback. If everything was shut off,
oh,
there
I
was
see.
no
Yeah,
telecommunications.
Be Eric, I think. You don't need your phone, do you?
Eric doesn't need
I
his
don't I
phone.
don't need my phone, but my survival skills are pretty good. I've done a lot of camping in South Australia, so I can,
Okay.
but uh no,
Eric would,
I thought Joel, because yeah, actually probably all of us would be all right. We were all fairly practical, and I think that's why we bonded so quickly, because we weren't sort of too posh inner city kind of people.
I love
mm,
that. I love
mm.
that. After making this movie, what's the one thing that you'd tell everybody that they must totally experience about Australia? I think we pretty much summed up many of the spots that stand out and the beauty that we have in our scenery. But what's something, especially for Americans, because as we know, if you want to give us an idea of when the movie comes out here, is it May the 25th, if I'm not mistaken? It's going to be open nationally here in the US or on streaming platforms.
So it's released in cinemas in California at Lamel and Angelica, and a couple of cinemas in San Fran and Texas last month, and it goes to home video Tuesday, the
Great.
26th. Home video.
So does that mean that it's going to be on streaming platforms when you say home video? Is that like Amazon
Yeah,
Prime?
Apple TV and Amazon Prime.
Great. That's
Mhm.
awesome. And what would you like people to take away with them to know about Australia that they have to experience? Obviously, Kangaroo Island, which I have never been to. So for me, that's something that I want to experience for myself. And I do love kangaroos too, a lot.
um,
It's I think some people have said to me in the US, oh, I'm not going to bother going all the way to Australia. They speak English. It's going to be the same as being in America. It's so different.
It's not the
And
same.
this country is it's not the same and in a great way. You're going to have a completely different cultural experience if you come here, which at times can be confounding because you're like, I don't understand what's happening, but in a good way.
It's almost an ideal place for Americans to
It's
come.
pretty
It's
ideal.
got I mean, we love America as much as we love Australia, but they are so different, and we love them, and we love them for the reasons that they are different. But I think if you're an American, I think just even hearing the accents and going to the country towns that are on the coast, they're a very specific breed. You know, they can be super friendly, they can be super gnarly, but they're incredibly authentic. And I think, you know, to Eric's point before, just being able to go anywhere where it's just so remote and not touristy and still absolutely stunning. There are now a few places in the world where you can go to a place that's absolutely stunning and not see anyone else there. And I think that's a lane to come, which is to do with the space.
Yeah.
And I would say, you know, that when people come to Australia, they tend to want to go to Sydney to see the Opera House and all that kind of stuff. But then they'll go to Taronga Zoo to see wild animals. Whereas if you go to Adelaide, I always say to people, fly into South Australia because you can be in the desert in 5 hours and you can be on Kangaroo Island in 2.5, 3 hours. And all these animals and that use koalas and the whole scenario, they're all just wandering around. You're in their environment. And that's what blows your mind, and that's what makes it different. Although
Yeah.
I was in LA and I did see a raccoon walking along the fence, and a hummingbird that I just thought was a really fat bumblebee. It was a big moment, but that was downtown. That was in
That's so
Studio
funny.
City, LA. But in Australia, that's what you well in South Australia, I reckon. Get out of the big cities,
Yeah.
like Tim says, and go just get out of there, and you'll see all you want to see just by leaving the big smoke.
Yeah. Even a cabin in a winery, you know, you'd be on your own. By the way,
Beautiful.
there's good wildlife in Central Park. I lived near Central Park. There was eagles, and it was quite
Lots of
surprising.
squirrels. I love the
Yeah,
squirrels actually. I'm very much a big fan of squirrels. I always take little
Yes.
videos of them and they're very tame. Once you start feeding them, they actually come to you and it almost seems like they want to crawl up your arm and sit on your shoulder. And I'm like, I don't know, are you going to jump in my
and
hair?
give you rabies.
Non-Australian to me, I'm like, she's playing with rats. That is so strange.
That's so funny. Well, they are a
I
rodent,
love
so but I'm very excited about everybody seeing this. I'm going to spread the word. I hope that everybody gets to watch it, learn a little bit about Australia that they didn't know before, and obviously the amazing writing behind it, the cinematography, the acting, everything combined. And it definitely makes me proud to be Australian. And I'm so happy that you guys are having success with it. And I will do the best that I can to get the word out here in the US as well, especially in LA.
Thank
Thank
you so much. Yeah, Beck's amazing in it. Eric's amazing. Adelaide is just, it's what they're, Australia can be proud of the acting talent.
We
Yes.
have a lot of talent over
Thanks.
there, and yeah,
Thanks, Sally. And the script's incredible.
Thank you.
yeah. Well done, Sally. Honestly, how long did it take you to write it?
I would say a year.
Mhm.
It was during COVID, and I was very fortunate to have someone help me with my kids so I could get some work done.
Your husband.
No, someone I paid.
Funny. Well, that's great. And it finally came to fruition and you manifested it and it's amazing to see it come to life. I can only imagine how exciting it is for you guys and coming to the US, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. I'm
Yeah.
excited for them to see it. Thanks
Yeah.
so much.